Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are, wherever you may be. Thank you so much for joining this session. My name is Larry Umunna, and I'm a consistent and proud advocate of large-scale food fortification. I'm based in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire, and run a small consulting unit outfit called AgriCade, focusing on nutrition, agribusiness, and private sector engagement. So even though I'm based in Abidjan, I would prefer to speak English today. Maybe tomorrow or next time I would speak French with you all. I would like to thank Catholic Relief Services and the organizers of this event for giving me the opportunity to moderate this session. This morning's plenary session will focus on sustaining food fortification efforts in West Africa. And during this session, we would attempt to provide overview of current initiatives and efforts to sustain food fortification in West Africa, as well as opportunities for future innovations to further reinforce the impact of large-scale food fortification required to address vitamin and mineral deficiencies in West Africa. We are extremely privileged to have very distinguished speakers today. These are professionals who have decades of experience in their chosen fields. And if I spend time trying to read their bios and CVs, we would spend the whole day here. So in order to save time, I would crave their indulgence for me to be very brief when introducing them. But before I invite them to take the floor, I would like to outline a few house rules. Could I please ask all participants to ensure that their microphones are in silent mode throughout the sessions, except when they are invited to speak. When we get to the Q&A segment, it would be appreciated if you could all use the raise your hand button and be recognized before you speak. We would like this session to be very interactive. After each presentation, there will be an opportunity for you all to ask questions and make brief comments. The key word there is brief comments, not keynote addresses, please. You will be encouraged to use the Q&A button, the Q&A and the chat platforms during the presentations. I think it would be nice if you have any questions, the moment you have those questions, please type them into the Q&A and chat platforms and send your questions and comments ahead of time. And you can rest assured that we would look at them. Each presenter would have 10 minutes to speak, and we will take 5 minutes for Q&A, and we'll be quite strict with timekeeping. Without further ado, let's welcome our first speaker. Mawuli Sabla needs no introduction. He is the main anchor for this virtual fair, and he has spent a significant part of his career promoting large-scale food fortification and is currently the Regional Technical Advisor, Health and Nutrition at the West African Regional Office of Catholic Relief Services. Mawuli would be providing an overview of large-scale food fortification in Africa. Mawuli, the floor is yours, and you could actually share your slide, please.
Hello, I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Do you want to put it? Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you very much, Larry.
Sorry, Mawuli, do you want to put it on slideshow mode, please?
It's in slideshow mode.
Okay. Well, okay.
Can you, or you can see my other screen?
Yes, we can see that.
Yeah, we can see the slides. Okay, go ahead if this works for you.
Or should I stop sharing it? Reshare. Yeah. Is it okay now?
We can see you as the presenters.
Oh, okay. You can see this. You can see my slide, right? I'm putting it in a slideshow mode, but it looks like it's not showing in a slideshow. Okay,
that's fine. You can go ahead, Mauli. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Larry. And once again, thanks everybody for joining this virtual exhibition fair. I mean, like Larry has indicated yesterday, we had significant historical background on progress when it comes to large-scale food fortification in the West Africa region. And over the past 2 decades, we've been trying to really advance the food fortification agenda because we also understand that it contributes significantly to reducing the high burden of vitamin and mineral deficiencies. And so my presentation will really provide just some very key highlight over the past 3 years in trying to revive the whole food fortification enabling environment in West Africa, and also engagement with both the public and the private sector, as well as partner stakeholders to advance this agenda. So essentially in 2022, 2023, we started off doing some significant review of the gaps when it comes to capacity around key fortification technical component areas. And this is really to understand over the past 2 decades progress that has been made, and as well as understanding where the gaps are when it comes to food fortification. So CRS, with funding from the Gates Foundation and in partnership with various stakeholders, including regional institutions like the West Africa Health Organization, we undertook some strategic reviews. One of them was really in the area of public-private partnership coordination and alliances, trying to understand the whole accountability framework at the national level, but also at regional level when it comes to coordinating the mutual accountability of public and private sector institutions to large-scale food fortification. And then, of course, the regulatory enabling environment. So we undertook some review and assessment in the regulatory enabling environment for compliance to standards on fortification. Then West Africa is one of those countries where there is some harmonization of standards with a regional logo that is being used by 13 countries out of the 15 countries when we are looking at the region as a whole. And so the social marketing, communication, and awareness creation of the value of fortification, not necessarily to promote consumption of fortified food, but the additional value added of fortification and the consumer awareness to recognize fortified foods and demand it. And then, of course, the production and distribution, working with private sector industry associations to really understand what they need to be able to do fortification better, the quality management systems, quality control system that needs to be in place. Then, of course, the whole monitoring, evaluation, and learning when it comes to fortification. So this assessment, this review, and gap analysis really led us to kind of identify priority areas we needed to focus on to meaningfully contribute to the reduction in micronutrient deficiencies in West Africa. And we realized that we needed to revive and reinforce and strengthen the capacity of National Fortification Alliance through the public-private partnership coordination, and then improve the food fortification environment and compliance to regulations and standards, because there was a major weakness there. There were no devices. The plants were not there to acquire reagents and testing equipment to be able to test the levels of micronutrient in fortified foods, whether locally produced or imported, and be able to enforce them. Then, of course, the communication, reviewing the branding with the Arishi logo, and then other countries that have their own logo, like Ghana and Nigeria, to see how we work towards a potential regional understanding of having a common logo, and reviewing and revising the standards accordingly. Then we also piloted some digitalized monitoring and evaluation systems in Burkina Faso, and also we're scaling this to Gambia and Niger. And later on, one of my colleagues will be joining a panel that will go into digitalization and data systems for evidence-based decision-making. And then, of course, so we looked at these gaps, and then we said we needed to reinforce these areas. So I'm now going to just share some key achievements realized over the past 2-3 years in CRS, working with partners and WAHO, as well as the ECOWAS Commission, to really improve the whole large-scale food fortification environment and ensure that we will get the impact that we need when it comes to addressing the high burden of vitamin and mineral deficiencies, like Larry was alluding to earlier on. So when it comes to the public-private partnership coordination, we worked with WAHO closely to eventually, even though for several decades there was a goodwill, to establish the Regional Alliance for Food Fortification. It was eventually realized, achieved somewhere last year. We established the Regional Fortification Alliance, and we activated and revived the National Fortification Alliances in most of the countries. I would say we've touched all the countries. Of course, the countries are at different levels, but we've had engagement with all the 15 countries when it comes to how National Fortification Alliances function, and reinforcing their capacities on leadership, resource mobilization, and all of that. Then, of course, strong regional network of industries working with the Oil Industry Association, AIFO-CEDEAO, reviving the salt, trying to revive the salt and flour millers industry associations, because these associations exist, but they are not functional and they are very weak. So we're trying to see how we reinforce them, similar to the engagement that we have with the Vegetable Oil and Industry Association. That is a very strong association in terms of private sector industry association in West Africa. Of course, we had various engagements with Consumer League and civil society organization, reinforcing the capacities of consumer leagues, as well as journalists that are in communication, to further hone in on the sensitization and awareness creation, as well as the logo, and reinforcing the whole partnership network and coordinating that. And that is one of the reasons why you see that even for this virtual fair, it's not just CRS that worked on this, is really bringing together everybody to work jointly together under an organizing committee to bring this to pass. So essentially coordinating the sub-working group of the Regional Nutrition Working Group on large-scale food fortification, and which was newly created, and CRS and WFP are co-chairing this platform. So in terms of coordination mechanisms, the accountability mechanisms, we've made significant progress with actions and defining accountability frameworks. 8 annual operational strategies have been developed. Review of texts in terms of institutionalizing the National Fortification Alliance platforms, and then initiated capacity for domestic resource mobilization, and the whole understanding of the status of fortification in each of the countries. So we undertook profile analysis on large-scale food fortification in all the 15 countries. The other area when it comes to capacity on regulatory enabling environment and compliance is really reinforcing the capacity of regulatory enforcement institutions, the customs, the standard agencies, standard authorities in countries, and there are various, depending on the countries, they have several of them, we've been able to train at least 258 enforcement officers on how to analyze micronutrient rapidly to enforce compliance. And we've also distributed some analytical devices, eye-check devices. So we've conducted training in Cote d'Ivoire, in Ghana, in Senegal. And we've tried to reach a lot of these countries to see how they also plan and better coordinate the whole compliance. Because without compliance and without having data on what we are doing, nobody would have the evidence that we are doing things right. So this is a very important area. Then when it comes to the communication, like I indicated, the training of the journalist, network, producer, communication, branding, and the Enrichi logo and activities around that. Then, of course, the digitalization that we piloted in Burkina Faso, Niger, and then trying to pilot them and scale that out and up. Then, of course, the profiles that we completed for the countries. But CRS as an organization is also our school feeding programs. We are currently providing school meals with fortified food commodities to more than 1 million school-age children on a daily basis. And we do this with local regional procurement of fortified food commodities. And we also receive fortified food from our donor countries. So for us, it's really the need also for data and be able to reinforce the whole enabling environment for evidence generation and tracking of data. I'll just go into some of the perspectives. So this regional fair, virtual fair we are convening now is one of the areas where we wanted to bring all the stakeholders together and really understand, how do we improve engagement across the private sector with premise producers, industries, and engagement for advancing the food fortification agenda. Then leading to that also is developing potentially a regional strategy on fortification. The Gates Foundation had convened stakeholders meeting in Dakar to have a joint visioning around fortification and see where there are convergence and see how to bring partners together to have a common vision towards fortification. And we believe that we can build off of that to develop a strategy for fortification for the region. Then, of course, the standards that we have in the region have been in existence for over 5-10 years, and we want to see how we revise the standards and work with the ECOWAS Commission to harmonize this revised standard. Then mobilize resources to advance the fortification agenda. Once we have a strategy, national levels can align their strategy to the regional strategy and mobilize resources for the implementation of those strategies in a very strategic and intentional way. Then continued capacity reinforcement. Currently, some of the stakeholders we've trained, some of them may have moved on to other roles. So capacity development needs to be a consistent process, and we need resources to be able to continue to do that. Then we need to scale up the digitalized data systems to cover all 15 countries, and then embed it, mainstream it into the regional data observatory of the West Africa Health Organization when it comes to tracking information and data on food fortification. Then reinforce the whole monitoring and accountability and learning systems for food fortification. So these are like priority areas that we believe that we need to be focusing on, and building off from all the achievement, the knowledge, of course, recognizing the need to consolidate our gains and support stakeholders. We need to ensure that we continue to work towards a regional strategy, enhancing a comprehensive fortification strategy that spans the entire sub-region and mobilize resources to continue the work that we are doing in a very intentional way. So I think I'll stop here. This is my last slide. Thank you very much. I hope most of the participants have also visited the link to this virtual exhibition fair. It will be available for the next 1 year, and you can go there and visit. And then there will be resources there. We hope that this will be a business-to-business development platform for engagement around food fortification in the West Africa region. Thank you very much. And Larry, thank you for the consideration for the time.
Thank you so much, Mawuli. Thank you for that excellent presentation. Would you mind stop sharing, please? I've not seen questions or comments in the Q&A button, but please save your questions. If you have questions and comments, you either put them in the box or you save them. Let's take the other presentation. The second presentation would also be on large-scale food fortification, and I would suggest that we take both presentations, and then we then have questions for both Mawuli and our next speaker. Our next speaker is Mahamadou Tanimuni. Mahamadou is the Senior Regional Nutrition Advisor for West Africa at the UN World Food Program. He specializes in maternal and child health, food systems transformation, and humanitarian support, and oversees WFP's nutrition initiatives, including the efforts to improve food fortification in West and Central Africa. Mahamadou, welcome.
Yeah.
Please share your slides. Take over.
Thank you very much. And Larry, sorry for sending the wrong presentation to you. And it's good that you prompted me. Yeah. Share the screen.
And just to emphasize that you have 10 minutes, sir.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Can you see my slides?
Yes, we can. Yeah, you can put it on slideshow.
Okay. Is it in slideshow? Because I can't. Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much. So good morning, distinguished colleagues and partner. It's my pleasure really to present on behalf of the World Food Program some of the updates and progress that we've been able to make around the food fortification here in West Africa, and the vision of the organization in terms of scaling up the impact on the use of fortified large-scale fortification or fortified food to tackle the issues of micronutrient deficiencies. So, of course, when it comes to West Africa, allow me please to give you a small context so that I know you have seen many figures, but it's very important for me to remind you about the context in which we are operating and why fortification really matters as a way to address the emerging issues of malnutrition, food insecurity, and related deficiencies. So West Africa is a region where currently we have most of the areas where we do what we call the cadre harmonisé or IPC analysis. We have 2/3 of those areas that are currently facing severe food insecurity. Like if I were to place this in number, this year alone, we are expecting to have 52 million people food insecure by the critical lean season of August and September. And this is affecting mostly the countries like Nigeria, even coastal countries. Nowadays, we are seeing an increase in food insecurity, and this is going hand in hand with an increased burden of acute malnutrition and related consequences. We have also seen recently a presentation that has been prepared by UNICEF that was called Child Poverty, which was showing that close to 85% of children in our region do not have access to the minimum required dietary diversity. And we know that the access to nutrient comes from the diversity of the diet and the intensity of nutrient that the children are consuming. This is really a serious concern, which needs, of course, for us to think about broader ways of helping people to get access to nutrient. Getting access to nutrient is not also easy because other type of analytics that we are doing are clearly showing that 54% of the household in West African region do not have enough resources to afford the cheapest possible nutritious diet, which means in terms of the barrier of knowledge, the barrier of availability and the physical access, we have another third barrier which is impeding the people access to nutrients. Of course, all this is happening in a very crazy environment where we are facing a lot of conflict, a lot of issues of connection between different countries, which are causing a lot of internal and cross-border movement. Today, we have close to 3 million people that are in movement, and this is an increasing vulnerability for this particular population group. WFP's global goal is really to make sure that we are able to
Did we lose Mohamedou?
for scaling up.
Yeah, I think Mohamedou may be having some connectivity challenges, if I'm not mistaken.
It looks like. I think it's back. Mohamedou, are you back? You are muted. You are mute. Mohamedou, on mute. Oh, looks like he's having connectivity issues. Hello, Mohamedou, are you there? Okay, looks like we've lost Mohamedou. Okay, should we? I think let's give him a minute or so.
Hello?
Mohamedou, are you back?
So
Okay.
I think I lost connection.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Please.
I need to reshare again the slides.
Okay.
So I don't know where I was actually cut. Was I on first or second slide?
Well, your time is almost up, so you can't be on the first slide.
No, okay, no problem. Okay, let me go here. As I was saying, that WFP's goal is really to make sure that the vulnerable people have access to affordable nutrients wherever they are. And for this, we believe that fortification and improving the environment with good quality of nutrition is a key to be able to achieve this particular goal. Now, as I said, to achieve this, we have 3 key pillars on which we are working. One is building on our analytical products and evidence generation. Today, WFP is deploying key analytical tools, and I'm sure in the next session, you will see the presentation of the mapping of micronutrient with my colleagues, where we are able to understand in a given environment what are the key nutrients that are deficient and what policy environment can we promote to be able to address those key issues. Then, of course, working with the government to make sure that we create an environment like my colleague Mauli has mentioned, building a regulatory framework is key to make sure that we are able to produce fortified and nutritious food of higher quality in the country. Then the last and the most important pillar is leveraging on the institutional capacities and the WFP's operation to be able to scale up the access and the delivery of those fortified commodities. Quickly, this is between 22 and 24, WFP has been able to distribute close to 4 million metric tons of fortified food across our operations in the world. And this is part of the commitment that the organization leadership has made to assure that we move from 25 to at least 50% of the grains that we are distributing to the people we serve to make them fortified. We have been working in West Africa, in many countries, to make sure that this is also translated in key actions in West Africa. For example, in Senegal, in Cote d'Ivoire, we are working with the government to make sure that the policy environment is created and enabling the use of fortification. For example, for the rice, this is the work we have been doing in the Cote d'Ivoire, in Senegal, and in Nigeria. I will show some specific examples in that regard. We've been working not only on the rice fortification, but also the fortification of maize meal. And this is an example of an accompaniment that we did for a private company in Chad to be able to produce locally fortified maize meal that World Food Program is currently purchasing and using in our operation. As for Nigeria, we have started working based on the key analytics that has really shown, despite all the efforts, the currencies are still persisting. And we have started working based on the support we got from the Gates Foundation with the government to start a pilot of distribution of rice fortification in 70,000 schools in some schools in Nigeria for 70,000 children. And this has really shown a huge potential that lead to an extension of this experience to around 500,000 children today receiving fortified rice. But Nigeria is a huge country, and we believe that if we continue with the enabling environment and all the institutional work that we are doing to support the government to expand this program, we can reach up to 10 million children that are currently not benefiting from this fortified rice initiative. So this is my last slide. I would like just to mention that WFP is not only working on the large-scale fortification, we are taking this in a broader agenda of supporting the local food solution initiative to improve the access of nutritious food and address the key nutritional issues. Thank you very much, Larry, and sorry for the internet inconvenience eventually. Thanks. Over.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that brilliant presentation. So thanks to both Mawuli and Mahamadou for their brilliant presentations, quite insightful. Mahamadou, could I please ask you to stop sharing and let's take questions from the participants. Mawuli gave us insights into some of the achievements that have been recorded in large-scale food fortification activities in West Africa. I'm not going to attempt to roll out everything that he talked about there, but it was very key to note the establishment of the Regional Fortification Alliance and the revival of the NFAs. Mahamadou talked about WFP's strategic approach to large-scale food fortification. Are there questions, comments in the chat, in the Q&A? If anybody is who wants to ask a question, let's spend the next 5 to 7 minutes and ask this gentleman your questions. I can kick off. Mahamadou, your last slide there, where you talked about Nigeria, you started by saying in 2018 there was no fortification, and today you are fortifying quite a lot. Are you referring to institutional feeding? institutional fortification, because fortification has been happening in Nigeria since 2002. Do you want to clarify that last slide,
Yeah.
please?
No, thank you very much, Larry. Indeed, I think what I mentioned and showed in 2018 is I was saying that despite all the efforts in the fortification and other related nutrition program, we still see pervasive micronutrient deficiencies in the country. So I was saying that it's the time for us to use the analytics to understand where those gaps are coming and what are the untapped opportunities.
Yeah.
And for example, when we deploy our tool, it shows that despite all the initiative, there are still room for improvement. And I think one of the important elements that we brought in here was the rice fortification, because in the past, there was no rice fortification until that milestone where we started.
Great, thank you so much for that. Mawuli, there's a question for you in the Q&A box, which talks about, okay, I'm not sure I can see it.
The nutrition strategy, strategy.
Yes, nutrition strategy. Please go ahead and respond to that.
So I tried to respond to Christina in the chat, in the Q&A as well, but her suggestion was that the large-scale food fortification strategy should be embedded as part of an overall nutrition strategy. And I think there's a good reason for that. And it would be good to have a regional strategy that includes a pillar that focuses on large-scale food fortification, addressing micronutrient deficiencies. And so I think that is to make sure that we work towards that nutrition strategy, but prioritizing large-scale food fortification as part of that strategy. And I think that's the vision that we all have. Of course, large-scale food fortification will continue to have be prominent, but then without the other complementary interventions, whether it's supplementation, water sanitation and hygiene, dietary diversification, appropriate infant and young child feeding, we would not be able to achieve our overall objective of improving nutrition outcomes. So I think that it's in the right direction, but we all acknowledge the fact that large-scale food fortification is one of those public-private partnership initiatives that helps us to go to scale when it comes to nutrition interventions. Thank you, Larry.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mawuli. Muhammadu, there's been lots of conversations around the need to eventually transit from institutional feeding to retail to a retail strategy. What's WFP doing around ensuring, whilst we appreciate the need for the institutional markets, what are you doing to support your local processors to ensure that some of those products are out there in the commercial retail space? Do you want to speak about that, please?
Yeah, thank you very much, Larry, for this question. Indeed, we know that the institutional purchase or institutional distribution is only covering a few percent of the people that are really the most vulnerable, and that there are still a large portion of the people in need that are not having access to that. And that's why I think the work we are doing with CRS in the platform is really to push for the governments to adopt strategies that are going towards potentially mandatory fortification of key staples, because rice, for example, is anyway consumed. We have been working in the GAP country of Ivory Coast, by the way, where you are, to develop a national strategy on rice fortification. Recently, there has been a roundtable on fundraising to see how the national multi-sectoral plan, including that strategy, can be implemented. And we hope that this will lead eventually to the possibility of mandatory fortification, and this would stimulate the access to the affluent consumers through normal market access. Of course, eventually, the role of the social protection programs, even though it's not 100% subsidy, which means free distribution, can also play a role, because we know that this kind of investment might lead in some marginal additional cost. Over.
All right, thank you so much. Christelle, thank you for alerting me about the hands raised. Could you please help me invite the person to ask his or her question, please?
Yes, Pratik, you can unmute yourself if you want to ask the questions directly.
Oui. Si possible, je peux répondre à cette question qui est faite en français. Alors, quels sont les types d'appui apportés par le PAM au laboratoire de contrôle? En tout cas, merci beaucoup pour cette question, Monsieur Dambélé. Je ne sais pas de quel pays vous êtes en train de nous écrire, mais je voulais vous assurer que l'appui donc au renforcement du cadre réglementaire et le développement des compétences techniques dans les pays, y compris en contrôle de qualité, en assurance qualité, font partie absolument du rôle et du mandat et du centre d'intérêt du PAM. On a eu plusieurs projets qui ont accompagné le pays comme le Niger, le pays comme le Mali, le pays comme le Burkina Faso, et nous avons des capacités, si je peux dire, vraiment énormes en ce domaine qui constitue vraiment un domaine davantage comparatif du PAM en termes de contrôle de qualité. Donc, nous avons des équipes dédiées qui sont à la demande capables donc, de se déployer dans les pays pour essayer donc d'évaluer les laboratoires qui existent et voir les différents gaps. Et ensemble, donc, nous pouvons travailler sur la possibilité de renforcement des capacités. Donc, en tout cas, les trois que j'ai donnés, ce sont des exemples concrets de renforcement des capacités à la fois techniques et matérielles que nous avons apportés au laboratoire dans les pays, justement pour soutenir cette possibilité d'amélioration de l'environnement alimentaire et la question commerciale dont Larry évoquait, puisqu'il n'y a pas de fortification de qualité si on n'est pas capable de faire le contrôle de qualité
Mamadou,
et
can I
l'assurance
stop you
qualité
here,
sur le
please?
territoire. Merci. There is any evaluation on using the fortified rice on changing micronutrient stages in the program?
Mamadou, let me stop you here. Mamadou, let me stop you here. We need to move on. We still have 3 other speakers. Pratik, I will take your questions in the next round of questioning, please. Let's move on to the next speaker. So thank you, Mauli and Mamadou. Let's invite our third speaker, who will speak about innovations in large-scale food fortification and new food vehicles in West Africa. Our third speaker is Faith Akutse Inyam. She's the nutrition program manager at Elinkela International and has over a decade of experience in public health. Faith has led numerous nutrition programs, including bouillon fortification, bouillon cubes fortification. Faith, welcome, and please take over. Do you want to share your slides, please?
Yeah, thank you very much. And I appreciate the attempt to call my name, which you did very well. Thank you so much. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can. If you could please put it on slideshow, please.
Is it better now? Better now?
It's still not on slideshow, but please go ahead if that's
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you're joining from. I'll be presenting on behalf of 2 organizations, Elinkela International and University of California, Davis. So I'll try as much as possible to stay within the time allotted to me. So this slide is just showing the legacy project of Elinkela Fortify West Africa, which was implemented in 15 ECOWAS countries, including, and then Cameroon, Mauritania, Mozambique, Tanzania, and other Asian countries as shown in the slide. So I will just stick to the third and the fourth point, being that the first and second points have been talked about from yesterday and even today. So going straight to why bouillon cubes is being considered for fortification, because it is widely used in the African cuisine, and it presents a unique opportunity to address the challenge of hidden hunger. And by fortifying bouillon in these everyday foods with essential micronutrients, it will improve the nutritional intake of the large population, seeing the reach of the bouillon cubes. Uh, the Bouillon Fortification Initiative, funded by the Gates Foundation, is implemented in 3 countries in West Africa: Burkina Faso, Nigeria, and Senegal. And the main aim is to add essential micronutrients to the bouillon cubes to address micronutrient fortification in the region. So, why are we exploring bouillon? So studies from these 6 countries: Senegal, Cameroon, Niger, Burkina Faso, Cote d'Ivoire, and Nigeria, showed an average of over 90% of consumption of bouillon, just like I mentioned in the previous slide. And the potential of bouillon is because it's commonly used, it's centrally processed, and a possible carrier of multiple nutrients. And then the consumption levels are relatively consistent, cutting across the different economic status. And then there is also the interest of the industry to participate in this. So the journey so far. So
Actually, the slides are not moving from my side. I don't know why.
please, can you confirm if everybody can see
We are
it
still
moving?
on the slide 1. Oh,
Yes, it's also not moving.
It's not moving.
No.
Oh my. Let me end slideshow and start again. Can you see?
We can see your slides, but you need to put it on slideshow and ensure that it is moving.
Okay.
Or would you want me to
I
share?
wouldn't mind, because it's moving from my end. I am not sure what I am, and it's on slideshow.
Okay, so
Yeah.
if you stop sharing, I will take
Okay.
over
All
and
right.
see
Thank you.
if I can
So,
share
okay.
it from my end.
I'm on slide 5. Do you mind me talking while
Yeah,
you try
go
to
ahead.
share? Okay, just to maximize the time. Okay, so evidence generation through the national fortification. So the national fortification alliances in the 3 countries set up the country working groups that discussed around bouillon and its fortification, and to advise the fortification alliances in the 3 countries. And the country working groups identified several studies that were conducted to generate evidence. We have also been working closely with the University of California, Davis, and they are leading an efficacy trial of 6 nutrient formulation, having the cubes having vitamin A, B12, B9, iodine, iron, and zinc. And over 10 research findings have been published in a peer-reviewed journal, Annals of New York Academy of Sciences. And I would like to add here that these resources are also available in our booth. You can do well to go there and get these resources. And then we also have some research briefs from the different studies that have been conducted as well. In Senegal and Burkina Faso, there's a sodium and salt intake study that was conducted, and this study showed that 15% of sodium. Bouillon contributes to 15% of sodium consumption in both countries, while in Nigeria, the study that was led by the University of Abuja on sodium reduction showed bouillon contributed 25% of sodium consumption. Next slide. So enabling environment, we are working with different stakeholders at the regional and at the national level. And for the regional level, it has led to the harmonization of the bouillon manufacturing and safety standard, and this was adopted at the 61st ordinary session in July 2002, but we are yet to get this inserted into the regional standards in the country's catalogs. It's still pending. And then we have been working closely with the national fortification alliances in the 3 countries, and they have set up this country working group. However, in Nigeria, the country working group has been dissolved, but in Senegal and Burkina Faso, this is still ongoing because for Nigeria, the country working group has completed the task that has been assigned onto them. And one of the key outcome from this is also the approval and the launch of the Nigerian Code of Practice for bouillon fortification and the review of the Nigerian industrial standards for bouillon manufacturing. And the NCP for bouillon fortification has 4 micronutrients approved, that is iron, zinc, B9, and B12 at 15% NRV. So our next steps, key next steps, is to support the local bouillon manufacturers to complete their research and development work, and also to launch the bouillon, fortified bouillon in the market, starting with Nigeria. And then to complete the research work, one of the key things that came up in the course of this project is the perception that if you fortify a product, it increases the consumption of that product. So there's a study currently going on to get results and findings from this perception. And then we're working with local institutes to research on fortified bouillon stability in local dishes. So this would be done using the local research institute in Nigeria, and then using cooking practices in Nigeria with the fortified bouillon. And then we intend to analyze the contribution of iodized salt and iron fortified bouillon to dietary intake iodine, and then to continue collaboration with government to develop and harmonize fortification messaging, particularly in Nigeria, and then to support the government to review and update policy documents for food fortification. This is now narrowing down to Nigeria, where we have the micronutrient deficiency control guideline that would soon, it's in the process of being reviewed. So for Helen Keller, I would stop here and then move on to the presentation from UC Davis. UC Davis is conducting an assessing the efficacy of fortified bouillon, a randomized double-blind placebo.
Faith, how much time? Yeah, Faith, we're running out of time because we still have 2 other speakers.
Okay.
So would you mind if we just move, if we took the other speakers, and then during the Q&A session, you can talk about the main points from the UC Davis work, if it's okay with you. So let's take the other speakers. Thank you for your kind understanding. Thanks for that presentation. Could I also please ask our participants, please save your questions, put them in the Q&A and chat room, the chat box, like we did with the first segment. Let's take the next speaker from Nutrition International, and then we would have questions for both Faith and our next speaker. And our fourth speaker, also here to talk about innovations in large-scale food fortification and new food vehicles, is Zelalem Desla. He's from Nutrition International, Ethiopia, and is a senior research officer at Nutrition International. And he coordinates community-based clinical trial research designed to investigate the efficacy and effectiveness of double-fortified salt with iodine and folic acid. Zelalem, welcome. Please take over. Would you share your screen, please?
Thank you very much. Okay.
And if you could please do us a favor and present in 8 minutes or less, please.
All right. Can you see my screen now?
No.
Not yet. Okay. Maybe. How about now?
We still can't say it. Christian, are you able to help to put up his screens? Christian or
I don't have the slides, but maybe Vitalis, do you have the slides?
How about
Oh,
now?
okay, we can see them
yes.
now. Okay.
Yes, I do, but I think that it has, yes, it's okay for
Please help.
them.
Okay, go
Okay.
ahead.
In full screen?
Yes, thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much. So I will briefly introduce about our work on double fortification of salt with iodine and folic acid in Ethiopia. Thank you very much for your nice introduction. I will take you through a brief background about the problem, and then what DFS IOFA is, and the efficacy trial, the status, as well as the feasibility test and the transfer of knowledge about the technology of DFS, as well as the policy environment for DFS scaling up and other additional milestones we have been going through. Just to begin with, there is high prevalence of neural tube defects in Ethiopia, which is up to 71.5 per 10,000 births. So this prevalence of birth defects is 3 times higher than countries in Eastern Africa, and 10 times higher than most of Western countries, and from 2 to 5 times higher than Sub-Saharan African and the rest of, the whole African continent, respectively. So this is mainly because of the high prevalence of malnutrition, specifically that of folate insufficiency during preconception and early pregnancy. Generally, consumption of folate and other B vitamin rich foods is low in Ethiopia. Just to take you through brief factors about the prevalence of folate deficiency and associated risk of NATDs in Ethiopia, our recent food and nutrition survey shows that the folic acid deficiency, or folate deficiency rather, among women of reproductive age shows that nationally 50% of prevalence, which is very much higher in urban areas, up to 63%. And among adolescent girls, 35% of folate deficiency has been recorded overall nationally, and still similarly it is higher among adolescent girls in urban settings, that reaches about 52%. This graph also shows, the associated risk of NTD prevalence or folate insufficiency, which is more or less similar to the prevalence of, the folate insufficiency. And the risk, the prevalence is also higher among, children under 5. So to combat this, large-scale food fortification is a proven, cost-effective, and high impact, as well as large coverage intervention over other interventions like supplementation, dietary intervention, and other means that are aimed to address micronutrient deficiencies. So in light of that, Ethiopia has initiated this innovative research, DFS IOFA. That is, DFS stands for double fortification of salt with iodine and folic acid. So the objective is clearly to develop this new product and test for the folic acid fortified iodized salt if it is efficacious, acceptable, and locally produced in Ethiopia, with its ultimate goal to improve the folate status among women and reduce the folate deficiency anemia, neural tube defects, and iodine deficiency diseases. This project has been done by partners among the Ethiopian Public Health Institute, which is a research health and nutrition research wing of the Ministry of Health and the government as well, with University of California at Davis and University of Toronto. This is happening with the generous support of the Gates Foundation. So as you all know, the reason why we selected salt as a vehicle for fortification of folic acid is Ethiopia is self-sufficient in salt production. And we have a very good experience in undertaking universal salt iodization, which has been mandatory some decades before. And we have a very good coverage of iodized salt in the country. So that we would like to leverage the potential of ESI so that we will intervene, the public health through reaching the community with folic acid fortifying the salt. So with that opportunity, we initiated, a two-phase efficacy trial or community trial. With the first phase was aimed to assess discretionary salt intake that determined the level of folic acid fortification intended to undertake the clinical trial and the amount of salt required during the clinical trial. So during the phase 2, we assessed the efficacy of this new product, whether it has improved, iodine and folate status of women. And also we assessed or monitored any adverse effects that might happen. So generally the research was undertaken under 3 arms, with the first arm is the control, that is DFS without folic acid, but with only iodine. The second arm has been administered for a low level of folic acid concentration of DFS with the presence of iodine. And also the third one is a higher concentration of folic acid with also the presence of iodine in it. So around about 360 women were administered and divided into these 3 arms, where the participants should actually be between 15 and 45 years of age, that are not using contraceptives and are not, planning to become pregnant. They should also not use, iron folic acid supplements, and they should not be, under any underlying illnesses. We received written informed consent, and the research protocols have been approved by different IRB reviews. The study site is in one of the regional areas called Gimbichu district or Warada in Oromia region. And right now we are under the stage of undertaking laboratory analysis and data analysis stage. So the results of this, both the first phase and the second phase will be presented in a very short period of time. And some of actually the findings have been published from the first phase data. The other activity we undertook was, the feasibility and transfer of knowledge of, fortification of DFS. So to undertake that activity, we first had to assess the capacity of the salt industries in the country in terms of, available processing technology, fortification setup, product packaging, and the quality control capacity. Based on that assessment, we selected one salt industry to produce, the DFS or the new product, so that it supports also undertaking the clinical trial. In doing so, we had, theoretical and practical training on the production of, this new product to regulators and the technical expertise at the salt industries. We then produced, 3 DFS IFA product types, that is iodized only salt at 33 ppm concentration. This should be as per the Ethiopian standard. The second one is iodine plus low level of folic acid. And the third one is iodine plus high level or 99 ppm of folic acid concentration. So as you see on the pictures, the first picture shows that, the folic acid and iodine premix solution prepared to undertake, fortification of this DFS. The second picture you see with the canisters is, 3 types of, the 3 products of this DFS are packaged in 500 gram HDP bottle. And as you see, the labelings and also other information is explained in this on top of these canisters, so that the consumers or the study participants should be fully informed of the content of the product.
Zelalem, can you conclude in about a minute, please? Sorry to interrupt you. Yeah.
All right. So we have also studied the product stability or the stability of the micronutrient is folic acid and iodine, and we have found 94% of retention of these micronutrients after 9 months. In order to get buy-in among the government or the decision makers and policy makers, we have done a lot of jobs that is accounted for creating enabling policy environment, so that we will have mandatory DFS at the end of this research. We have also engaged local civil society organizations, and we had employed several awareness and sensitization activities to the decision makers, including the parliamentarians, as well as media people and the community at large. So we have also additional milestones undertaken, and some are going on. That includes the sex and gender-based analysis that identified the potential barriers to undertake or implement DFS intervention nationally. We will undertake consumers' attitude and practice towards the use of this new product. We will have to produce, develop the DFS target product profile to inform, the standard of the product, and we will develop and implement DFS IOFA pilot market introduction strategy. We will have also public health and economic benefits modeling, which is going on now, so that we will establish, an investment case based on the information or the evidence about the cost and benefit analysis.
Right.
So we are under the preparation of DFS scaling up after the end of this one. So in my conclusion, maybe I would like to stress on, advocacy and awareness creation and sensitization across several levels of the community and decision makers is key one to to have successful implementation of this large scale fortification, leveraging the existing USI practice and building upon it, supported the new intervention, and collaboration among local civil society organizations play immense role in effective advocacy for DFS. But I have to say that this new technology can be adapted. We have assessed that this technology can be adopted within the existing technological and technical infrastructure of the salt industries in Ethiopia. Thank you very much. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Zelalem, and I apologize most sincerely for rushing your presentation. Let's go on to our last presenter. The last, certainly not the least. Our fifth presenter would share information on new technologies for food fortification with vitamin A. Sherry Hoberg is our next presenter. She is the CEO and co-founder of Particles for Humanity. She has more than 20 years experience leading private as well as public companies with strong experience in translating academic research to development and overseeing all phases of product development and attracting the right talents and resources. She knows how to raise money. She has raised more than $300 million. So she's the person we should all be talking to, speaking to at this point in time. Cheryl, the floor is yours to talk about new technologies for food fortification with vitamin A.
Thank you, Larry, for that kind introduction. My slide share is not working, and I'm wondering if you could pull up the slides, and I'll just start talking while you do that, if that's okay. All right, great. So I'm going to talk today about a stable form of vitamin A that we call PFH-VAP that we have developed for large scale, that we're developing for large scale food fortification. Today, I'm going to focus on our work in developing PFH-VAP for bouillon fortification, which Faith mentioned earlier in her remarks, Faith from HKI. And we're developing this product also for wheat flour and sugar. And I was in Nigeria in December talking about our work in wheat flour. But today we're going to focus on bouillon. And I'm also going to focus on our discussions with Nigeria, since, as Faith mentioned, there is recently passed bouillon standards and a lot of work going on in Nigeria around bouillon fortification. However, we're hoping that our work in Nigeria will be the beginning of a broader initiative across West Africa. So as Larry is getting the slides up, I will just tell you what I think many of you already know. Vitamin A deficiency is a huge problem throughout sub-Saharan Africa and globally. There's 190 million children and 19 million pregnant women that suffer from it. Food fortification is a proven strategy for addressing micronutrient deficiencies, as you all know. But because of this instability of vitamin A, the effectiveness of large-scale food fortification against vitamin A deficiency has been limited. Bouillon, is something that UNICEF since the 1990s has talked about as being sort of the ideal fortification vehicle for addressing vitamin A deficiency because of its reach. As Faith mentioned, more than 90% of people in West Africa consume bouillon regularly. In Nigeria, that number is even higher. However, in these bouillon standards that were just approved in Nigeria, vitamin A was not one of the 4 micronutrients that was included. And there were good reasons for that. At the time that the standards were approved, at the end of last year, there was no commercially available formulation of vitamin A that was stable. So it makes sense that it was not included in the standard at the time. However, when I went to Nigeria last year, at the end of last year, I was assured that these standards would be reviewed periodically, probably sometime next year. And since our product, PFH-VAP, is a very stable product and is going to be commercially available imminently, that there's an opportunity to review those standards. So, you know, we've made great progress towards commercialization. We closed a partnership with Hexagon earlier this year. Hexagon, as many of you know, is a well-established premixer in this market, so we're very excited about that partnership. And just this month, we finished 3 process validation batches on our commercial scale process, and each batch is able to fortify 300 million bouillon cubes, and we're doing this work at a site that's capable of producing all of the vitamin A needs for all of the dry food fortified vitamin A in Nigeria. So, so we're making good progress. You know, I'll just mention that we are a mission-driven company, and we're 100% funded by philanthropy. So all of our interest in this is purely to address the problem of vitamin A deficiency. So Larry, I can't see the slides. Do you have them up? If so, it'd be great if you could advance to the next slide, slide 3.
Yes, the slide is up. We can see slide 3.
Great, thank you. So, vitamin A, you know, as I mentioned, the vitamin A was not included in the standard. So when I went to Nigeria last December, I spent a lot of time speaking to many stakeholders, including the regulators, to get a better understanding of why. And the reasons are listed here. The primary reason was because at the time, as I mentioned earlier, there was no stable form of vitamin A. Another reason was the expense of vitamin A relative to other micronutrients, the fact that there are already 5 other foods that are mandated for vitamin A fortification in Nigeria, and there are other targeted interventions like vitamin A supplementation and MMS for pregnant women. So for all of those reasons, vitamin A was not included in the standards. So what I'm hoping I'm going to accomplish today is, since a big part of our development program is to work with stakeholders, and so many of you are in this room, and I'm hoping that after this presentation, you'll give me feedback, because we're putting together a data package to go back to Nigeria to talk to the stakeholders who will be making decisions about whether vitamin A will be added at a future date, and to pull information together to help them make that decision. So if you have feedback for me, please give it, because we want to make sure we're getting the right information to these people who are making the decisions. So with the next slide, I'll just talk about, we're going to address each of the reasons for exclusion one by one. This is in slide 4. You should be seeing a graph of the stability profile of our PFH-VAP, and you can see that after 24 months in the hot and humid conditions that are found commonly in Nigeria and much of the rest of West Africa, and that's at 40 degrees C and 75% relative humidity, 70% of the vitamin A is still present after 24 months of storage in these hot conditions in bouillon. So we have a stable form of vitamin A, and we have a partner who has all of the capabilities to commercialize this product. As I mentioned, we closed that partnership in March with Hexagon. On the next slide, you can see that and I can't see the slides, so I want to make sure. I'm going to pull up my slides on my computer. The next slide, 5, you can see that, yes, vitamin A is relatively expensive, but it's not as expensive as some of the other nutrients that are included in the standard. 4 different forms of iron were included in the standard. FEPP is the one that is most likely to have good organoleptic properties, which is going to be very important for the bouillon manufacturers. And it's actually twice as expensive as vitamin A. So vitamin A is expensive, but not as expensive as iron, and it can have enormous impact. On slide 6, this is data from UC Davis collected from the Nigerian Living Standard Survey, which looks at the vitamin A density in the diets of people throughout Nigeria, as well as vitamin A that's consumed through the 5 different fortification programs, as well as vitamin A supplementation. And you can see that in spite of 5 mandatory fortification programs, there is still quite a high level of prevalence of vitamin A inadequacy in Nigeria. On the left-hand side is in children, and you can see national prevalence is at 15%. That's 5 million children under the age of 6 who are not getting enough vitamin A. And on the right-hand side is women of reproductive age. And at 20% prevalence, that's 11 million women of reproductive age who are not getting enough vitamin A. So the current interventions are not solving the problem in Nigeria. And if you go to the next slide, 7, you can see that that bouillon's coverage, which Faith talked about earlier, is extremely high in Nigeria. This is across income. Each of these bars is the income level, and the furthest bar to the left is the lowest income levels. So even at the lowest income levels, where vitamin A inadequacy is most likely to be prevalent, 96% of the people at those income levels are eating bouillon regularly, whereas it's only 48% in wheat flour and 9% in maize and 70% in sugar. So, and also on the right-hand side, you can see that the coverage for the targeted interventions like vitamin A supplementation and MMS, they're very low. So bouillon really solves the problem of getting the food to the people that need it. And if you can get that vitamin A into bouillon and to these people, on slide 8, you can see the impact. PFH plus bouillon at 30% RDA can almost eliminate vitamin A inadequacy in Nigeria. On the left-hand side, you can see that 10,000 of the child lives, 10,000 child lives could be saved of the 13,000 children that die every year of vitamin A inadequacy. And on the right-hand side, you can see that of those 5 million children that are vitamin A inadequate today, 4 million of them could get to healthy levels of vitamin A. And of the 11 million women of reproductive age that are currently vitamin A inadequate, 9 million of them could get to healthy levels of vitamin A. So we see a very compelling reason to add vitamin A to these bouillon standards in Nigeria, but we want to get input from particularly the people in Nigeria who are closest to the problem to make sure that we're getting the right information to the right people. And I appreciate any help or any feedback or advice that you could give us. Thank you, Larry.
Thank you so much, Sherry. Thank you to all the speakers. Again, I apologize for rushing you all. Mawuli, Christia, do we have time to take some questions? Quick comments from participants? Because I see we've actually overrun our time. Yeah,
we've overrun the time, but we can just continue if participants are okay with it, so that once we end this session, you can connect directly into the next session and maybe take 2 or 3 minutes to stand up and then maybe go to the washroom or do something else. But we can connect directly into the next session and go on to lunch.
Okay, so why don't we just open the floor for quick questions? Christia, I will need your help here if there's anybody who have their hands up, but there was a question earlier in the first session from Pratik. Unless those questions have been answered during the presentation. If there are any burning questions, let's take those questions and comments on the chat.
There's been a few questions and comments in the Q&A and also a question in the chat, which is in French, so I'm not sure what it is.
So maybe I can quickly translate that one. So Zanugo from Buki, Abdul is asking the temperature, the minimum and maximum temperature for storing or keeping vitamin A in bouillon. Trying to understand if maybe it would not affect, the temperature will not affect the cooking in terms of maybe some loss in relation to loss of vitamin A.
Okay, we can leave that for both Sherry and Faith. Any other questions that we need to address as well and comments?
With a heads up by Kofi Aluki, do you want him to speak up?
Kofi, if you can do it in 20 seconds, please go ahead.
I have any questions on bouillon cube? A big issue on bouillon cube is they add additives in bouillon cube. Some of them are prohibited. By using bouillon cube as product to be fortified, how do you ensure the quality control of this product in our West African market? Because our market is very open to this product that come in various sources from various industry by using various additives that I prohibited. How can we control this product in our market to ensure that we have a nutritious fortified bouillon in our households, right?
Thank you so much, Kofi. I get the question. So you said there are some additives that are prohibited, but we're still prohibited. Some products, additives that are prohibited, but we still consume. We still consume the bouillon cubes in our countries. Certainly, there must be some explanation from our regulatory agencies. Cheryl, Faith, do you guys want to respond to those two issues? One around the temperature for vitamin A, bouillon, and the other one around these issues Kofi raised.
Okay, thank you very much, Larry, and I appreciate your last comment because bouillon has been consumed for a very long time, and the issue that Kofi is raising is a regulatory issue. So if it's been consumed all this while, that means we need to watch on the regulatory aspect to ensure that it is in line with the standards for the different countries and at the regional level as well. And also the how do we ensure is in terms of transparency, quality control, and quality assurance. And part of what our the bouillon project will be doing is to work with the industries on quality control and quality assurance. And then, like I mentioned, transparency in terms of labeling of the nutrients that are in the products that are being produced in the market. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Faith. Sherry, any quick words on temperature of vitamin A?
So I didn't hear the question specifically, but if the question was what were the temperature conditions that we did our stability testing in, it was at 40 degrees C and 75% relative humidity. So these are very, very hot and humid conditions and quite commonly found in West Africa, particularly in the open air markets where a lot of the shopping is actually done.
Okay, great. Thanks. I would have to conclude here. I will completely run out of time. We've had very enriching, exciting, informative session. I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done. Certainly, there's a lot happening in the large-scale food fortification world, lots of innovation. But I think it's time for us to begin to open our minds and encourage the adoption of these innovative technologies, new food vehicles. There's still a lot of room for work to be done around research, continuous research, but our regulatory systems must also work alongside the development and developers and promoters of these innovations. Communicating these benefits of these new technologies and vehicles will be very useful, but it should be about impact at the end of the day. Are these technologies contributing to a significant reduction in the incidence or prevalence of micronutrient deficiencies? If the answer is yes, then there's indeed a bright future for all of us, especially for large-scale food fortification. Let me stop there. Thank you all to all our speakers. Thanks to all our participants. Thanks for your contribution. And